Hello everyone, my name is Laura Anderson. I am an 8th grade math teacher at Memorial Middle School in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We are the Mustangs, so I have the Mustangs picture here. I grew up in Valentine, Nebraska and then came to Sioux Falls to run track at the University of Sioux Falls. I currently coach 7th grade girls volleyball and track and field. I teach 8th grade math. I love to read. Where the Crawdads Sing is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. And then this is a picture of my husband and I. We've been married about 3 years now, and we actually met teaching at Memorial. So far with the pandemic, I would say for my problems, March through May of 2020 was just chaos. I continuously told my students there was no way we would be leaving school and that they were crazy. And then all of a sudden we were told we weren't coming back from spring break, but that we would be coming back in a couple of weeks. And then that couple of weeks turned to months, and then I never saw my students again in person. That was really weird for me. It didn't feel like I had very much closure with those kids, and it was just hard to return to the school in May to clean out their lockers and not see them again. The summer was really good for me. I really enjoy staying home. I'm a huge homebody, so this summer when I had an excuse to stay home and just work on my house and hang out with my husband, that was pretty fun for me. I got a little stressed in August thinking about what school would be like this year and how different it would be, if students would buy in to starting school virtually or not. And it just was really tough because we didn't hear a lot from our district about the plan. We didn't really have a plan until we started. So early August, we find out we're going to start full-time in the classroom with kids as normal, and just to spread the desks out as far apart as we could. And so then from September to December, I just was stressed about things that I've never been stressed about, and just kept wondering, like, is this normal? Is this environment that I'm teaching in beneficial to the students when we're all wearing these masks and not really getting to know each other or not? Overall, I would say being back in the building is definitely more beneficial than being at home and trying to do virtual learning. I'm very glad that we did that. It's just a weird environment. It's really hard to know what the real rules are, if we're following the right rules, if we're not. So that's kind of been hard for me, because we've had sports as normal, but we restrict how many people can come watch the kids play, but the kids aren't wearing masks when they play. It's just like there's a lot of conflicting rules. So that's been tough. Currently, it's still weird. I just really honestly can't believe we're still in school. We made it this far. Sometimes I have all my students in class and it's really great. And then other times, like this week, I have 30 kids who are not able to be in class for a week because they were a close contact to someone who wasn't wearing a mask properly, so they have to go home and monitor for symptoms and can't return without a negative test. It's just bizarre when that happens. It's really stressful because I do Google Meets and I ask my kids to show up and sometimes they don't. This week, none of the 30 showed up for a Google Meet, but expect to be able to continue when they get back, like as if they had never missed school. So that's kind of tough, but it's definitely taught me to adjust. Some things I've learned is that my mental health is super important, and that I need to leave school at school. It was really hard in May and March through May to be working at home because it kind of like made me feel like I needed to be on call at all times for my students. So I was always available no matter what time, no matter if it was the weekend, and that was kind of a bad habit that I got into. So this year I'm really focusing on not checking my email on the weekends or after 5 and just making sure that I'm spending time at home with my husband rather than focused on school. I've learned how important relationships are. For those first few months, my mom and my sister and I did not spend any time together. We were really trying to avoid each other, and that was really hard for me. I definitely love spending time with them. They're my best friends, so it was just really weird to not be able to see them, as well as all my other friends and our couple friends. It was just a tough time. I learned that I actually like gardening. I do not like weeding my garden, but I loved having vegetables. This year was my first year having a vegetable garden, and that was really relaxing, actually, and good for me. But the biggest takeaway from this pandemic is just the flexibility that I need to have with my students. It's really tough when they're gone for 2 weeks, or when they come back and they honestly tell me I haven't done any of the math since I've been gone and don't make an effort to come in and get any extra help. It's hard because I don't feel like I can reteach the whole 2 weeks that they missed, because that's not fair to the other kids who were in the building and already learned it. But I also don't feel like I can just leave them behind. So learning to be flexible and adjust what I'm teaching when I'm teaching it has been really a big learning curve as well. When it came to the mindsets that we read in the Moore article, I thought that the all students can learn should be an obvious one. Teacher collaboration over isolation to me is also another obvious one. And then the happiness and optimism, where happiness is a choice. That one I struggled with a little bit more. So I really agreed with those first two. Like I said, I definitely think all students can learn and can be successful. It just might not look the same for every single student. Success might look different to two different kids. But I do tell my students every day that if they show up, if they take notes and they ask questions and they're actively present in my room, they will succeed at math. The only time that they will fail is when they choose to check out and choose not to ask questions or get help with any of the concepts. I think each student is capable of learning. I also think I definitely work way better when I talk to the other 8th grade math teachers about what they're doing in their classrooms and when we collaborate than when I do my own thing. I would say every day I talk to all 3 of the other math teachers and we collaborate on what we're doing before school, during school, and even after school. I don't necessarily agree with that final mindset. I do think that you can choose your attitude. I think that if I come to school tired or in a bad mood already, it can affect my entire day. But there are definitely things in this world that we can't control, and every day I learn things about my students that make me sick to my stomach, that that's a life that they're living. And I definitely think that we never really know what a kid is going through or what a coworker is going through. And so while I do think you can make it a good day by changing your attitude, I don't always think that happiness is something that's in our control. Positivity is probably something that's in our control, which I do think can lead to happiness, but there are circumstances that we can't control and that really affect the way that our day goes. The 5 dispositions of a good leader: confidence, being a risk taker or decisive, having a sense of humor, being empathetically assertive, and being a learner. I really enjoyed reading the section on the dispositions of good leaders. I agreed with all 5 of the dispositions. I felt that I long for a leader who has them. The most important disposition for me is someone who's decisive. I just feel in education, especially at my school, every teacher has an opinion about everything. And I think a true leader should be able to hear those opinions, but then make a final decision. And that's just something I crave from leadership. I do think that leaders need to have a sense of humor, but I think that's true with all educators. We couldn't do this job if we didn't. I do think that leaders need to be empathetically assertive, understanding where people are coming from, but then in the end or in the long run, making that final decision. And I do agree that leaders need to be confident. It's just very apparent when someone walks in a room and shows their confidence, and you want to listen to those people no matter what, even if it's not someone who's in a leadership position, but it's just another teacher. When they walk in and they're confident and they share something that they're passionate about, you want to follow along. So I think all those 5 dispositions really make for a good, strong leader. The 3 practices more discussed was focus and prioritizing, examining feedback and data, and then emotional intelligence. I agreed with that piece of the article as well. I agree with that research. Leaders must be able to prioritize. When they get bogged down with too many things, it's, I'm sure, overwhelming because these people are people. They struggle just as much as everybody else. So not only prioritize, but do a good job of doling out responsibilities to other people as well. Leaders must be able to collect proper data, analyze it, and successfully implement it into the school environment. I agree with that 100%. Sometimes I think we're presented with all this data, but we never analyze it. We don't really know how to use it in our school, and it's just kind of like, thanks, I don't know what you want me to do with this information. So having a leader who's able to analyze it and interpret it and let us know how to implement it is key. And they also need to be able to read a room, be emotionally intelligent, know if their staff is on board, if they've lost them, know how their staff is feeling, especially in like a one-on-one situation, just being able to understand and empathize again with their staff. Lynch talked about 8 principles of a ethical leader. So having personal courage, public interest ahead of self, self-control, self-discipline, and integrity, task and employee centeredness, recognizing talent, requiring high ethics from everyone, sensitivity and understanding, and inclusiveness. Not only do I think leaders need to have these 8 principles, but I think that educators in general, these are things that all of us need to have and to understand in order to be good at our job. I agree with those principles. My top 3, in my opinion, would be task and employee centeredness. I just really believe in order for a school building to be successful, principals must keep the staff and students in mind when making decisions. For me, when I think about this one, it's like disciplinary actions and making sure that the staff and the student are involved in the disciplinary action as we follow the discipline policy. Requiring high ethics from everyone. I just think that needs to be an established rule for everyone in your building. Not only should we have high expectations for our teachers, but high expectations for our students, because if we set those high expectations of having positive ethics and work ethic, and if we set them high, I think students will achieve them. Just like when I say all students can learn, I think all students can rise to the occasion that you put in front of them. And my third top one would be inclusiveness. I just, again, think this means inclusiveness in decisions as well as in the school in general, including parents, including staff, including students, in decisions that are going to affect everyone who you're making it for. I think that would be a really good sense of leadership if you were able to do that. So in my reflection over reading these articles, they really helped me to articulate qualities I believe a good leader should encompass. Sometimes it's hard to put to words what you want from your principals in your building, and these articles really helped me with that. It's my desire that if I ever do leave the math classroom to be a leader, that I would adhere to these dispositions, mindsets, practice, and principles discussed. All of those things are things that I would want to be just as a math teacher, but if I left and went into a leadership role, I think those are things that